Hello everybody, it's David Fleming here from the Toronto Realty Group, and welcome back to this week's Pick 5. Now, if you're a regular viewer of Pick 5, you will say, where did you go? And if you also happen to watch the podcast, well, yeah, you know, took a few weeks off, 6, 7, 8, wanted to refresh as we get ready for the fall market, not just in terms of the production and the set and everything like that, but I just felt that maybe we needed a break here in the Toronto real estate market. Now, the real estate market doesn't take a break, of course, and in actual fact, if you want to listen to the latest podcast, I explained that we, on my team, spent the entire summer preparing listings for September. We expect it to be very busy. But as far as Pick 5 goes, I'm very happy to be back behind the camera here. This is a feature I've been doing since, I think, 2013. My goodness, it's been a long time. We're going to take a look at 5 properties today, as we always do on Pick 5, with a different theme. Sometimes it's geography, sometimes it's price point, and then sometimes you're a little nervous about turning 45 years old and you start to think, my God, am I old? Is that it? Be honest. Is 45 old? I was just 23 and getting into this business yesterday. But on the subject of old, I thought, why don't we look at old condos? Not just because I'm turning 45 and completely obsessed with it, but because old condos are very interesting in the city of Toronto. There are very few of them. Think back to the inception of the condo market here in the city of Toronto. How many condos exist from the 1970s? Think about when this city started to say, hey, you know all these parking lots downtown? Maybe we should consider turning them into residences. Believe it or not, you want to trace back to the 50s, 60s, or even into the 70s, everyone lived in a house. And they drove downtown, probably smoking cigarettes in the office and in the car. They parked in a giant parking lot. They went upstairs, they went to work, and they drove home. That was then, this is now. And there are very few condos in the city of Toronto as a percentage that date back to when I was born in the early 1980s. Today, we're gonna look at 5 of those because the prices, the maintenance fees, the styles, the features, the finishes, the locations, I find them to be absolutely fascinating. Now, the reason there are so few old condos is because proportionally, of course, more and more were being built in the 2000s, into the 2010s, and while the pre-construction condo market is essentially on hold right now because builders aren't building, investors aren't buying, we will probably see another condo boom in about 10 years. Right now, we're seeing most young buyers refuse to consider anything that's less than, I don't know, 10 years old. Who in the world is going to buy a condo that was built in 1981? Well, maybe it'll be you. We'll find out today. As we take a look, you can see the screen here, on downtown core, 5 condos. Now, of course, they are all right in the heart of downtown. And if we were to zoom out, you can see as far as downtown goes, again, right in the heart. That is where the older condos were built. 1981, no, nobody was building a condo out in Beaconsfield Village because, I don't know, that was probably not even considered Toronto at the time. So let's go here and we'll take a look at the 5 properties we're going to see today. We're going to start at 256 Jarvis. Now, this building was registered February 7th, 1983. I was 2.5 years old. My goodness, that's an old condo. A little obsessed with age, are we? So 256 Jarvis Street 3B. It's got a letter in it. It feels like an episode of Seinfeld. Most condos these days don't have letters. This is the first thing you'll notice about older condos. Now, when you take a look at the photo itself, and you can see, yeah, this looks like an older building. Today, it's all about sleek and sexy. I mean, in Mississauga, they created buildings, they call them Marilyn Monroe buildings, to mimic the curves in her body. Back then, this is what you got. It looks like a glorified apartment building. Now again, location-wise, Gerrard and Jarvis, not the best location right now. In 1983, what was happening at Gerrard and Jarvis? Well, I can say that driving home from some Toronto Maple Leaf games as a child, it was pretty interesting to see what was happening around there. The unit itself, guys, is a 2-bed, 2-bath. This is, are you ready for this? 1,721 square feet, and as you can see, it is priced at $739,000. So throw this number up on the screen for me, please. $429.40 a square foot. No, that's not a typo. $429.40 a square foot. Folks, welcome to older buildings in the downtown core. People do not like older buildings. Now, I will say this unit has been owned by the same individual since 2003. which is as good a reason as any to consider how much someone loves living in this unit, in this building, in this location. But I can guarantee you, no young person is buying this today. Yes, that is a sweeping generalization, but it doesn't make it untrue. Now, no outdoor space. It does have parking. You can see here it says exclusive. Nowadays you own them. Back then they would be exclusive use common elements. The fees are $1,415 a month. That's 82 cents a square foot. That's actually relatively cheap for today's market. But for a building that's 42 years old, that is exceptionally cheap. Of course, that includes all the utilities, water, heat, and hydro. Now, the unit itself, it's pretty basic. I mentioned that there's no outdoor space. This might be virtually staged. I honestly can't tell. I am not going to wow you with a unit that dates back to 1983. I believe that was before Michael Jackson's Thriller. It could have been around the same time. Does it really matter? We're talking about Michael Jackson. That's how old this condo is. Now, as far as, oh my goodness, what is this? Check this out. Go back. Where were we here? Kitchen. And then you go here, and this looks like a kitchen. It looks like a kitchen. No, it's not. It's an entire laundry room. Back in 1983, they built condos that were supposed to be like houses. They had things like laundry rooms. You will not find this space anywhere else, and I believe that was included in the write-up. Here you can see they have really good amenities in older buildings. You wouldn't expect to find a gym like that, but some of these buildings have been exceptionally well kept and refurbished over the years. It's just kind of ugly from the outside, and you might not love the location. But again, the square footage, 1,721 square feet, $739,000. You're not going to find this anywhere else. And if you were to say, I want a brand new 1,700 square foot condo, you'd expect to pay at least $2 million. Now, if it's new, brand new, $1,300, $1,400 a square foot, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4 million, that is what an older condo will do for you in the city of Toronto. Now, I mentioned same owner since 2003. That's quite interesting. I think that's a testament to the fact that, well, the residents like it here. Now, the next building, 45 Carlton, Unit 1209, the Lexington. Now, this building was registered on December 24th, 1981. Somebody at Toronto City Hall was working on Christmas Eve, and they didn't click a button because, I don't know, do they have computers? They probably took a big stamp and they stamped a pile of paper and said, this building is now registered. Sorry to shake the camera. December 24th, 1981. My goodness, that was before my brother was born. Now, this is $848,000. This is a 2-bed plus 1 2-bath, and this one's nicely renovated. But at 1,300 square feet, it's still only, you ready for this? $652.31 per square foot. Now, this building is bigger. This is 19 stories. It's 343 units. This was one of the first big buildings, and there were a few of them on Jarvis. We're going to look at 77 in a moment, but there's 120 Jarvis, 130 Jarvis. This is around the old Maple Leaf Gardens. And when condos started to get built in the early 1980s, you had a lot of them were built down by the water because people said, hey, if I'm going to live in downtown Toronto, what's one of the best things we have about downtown? Oh, it's the waterfront. But you would also have people that would say, well, I don't want to go like all the way downtown to where I park when I go to, you know, my office. I pay 50 cents to park for the entire day and take an elevator up to the 45th floor and then drive home to Midtown, West End, East End, and it takes 15 minutes. Now it takes an hour and a half. No, they wanted to live sort of like, well, maybe up at Carlton, maybe towards Bloor, and you've got a whole bunch of buildings on Carlton. Now the unit itself I mentioned is renovated, so let's take a look at this. And it might not be your style, of course. Renovated relative to a building that is 44 years old. So for $652 a square foot, I honestly cannot get over it. The value here is obscene. The problem is that this is not for everybody. I'm generalizing. But I just can't see a young person saying, I want to live there. Now, of course, the fees here are $1,266 a month, but that's only 97 cents a square foot, all inclusive. So again, under $1 a square foot, which isn't terrible. So renovated, and you might say, sure, it's renovated. Where are my stainless steel appliances? But relative to what was originally here, 1981, I shudder to think. So you've got a solarium there. As you can see, it's an add-on to the second bedroom. You might consider that to be the +1. Here's some of the original features. This looks like you've got your sliding doors made of brittle plastic, vinyl made to look like wood. Okay, so maybe the entire thing is not renovated, but again, we're selling square footage here. And you are selling the location. Now, interesting thing about a building like 77 Carlton, it's a community. And when this building, when I first started in real estate, I remember doing a bunch of showings there for a colleague, this truly is a community. You go down to ICE or some new building in Liberty Village, it's not. It's a lot of renters who, God, Did I tell you I turned 45 now? I'm old. Yeah, I'm going to generalize again. A lot of renters who are young people who let their dogs go to the bathroom in the stairwell because they're too lazy to take them outside. Now I'm really falling into the old man. Now I just need to shake my fist at a cloud or something like that. So yeah, they didn't stage this, as you can tell. They look like they got 2 camp chairs here in the living room, but I think you get the idea. And then you've got a bed in that wide solarium. So this is neat. I'll see if they have a floor plan. But in some of these older buildings, it reminds me of the Esplanade, you'll have a bedroom and a bedroom, and then behind both is a solarium, so it kind of connects. Some people just take all the walls down. They want to make it into one big space, and others, as you can see here, decide to make it into a pretty cool home office, although it looks like maybe they've got a friend crashing there. So lots of photos, and then you get into the amenities. Right? You can see the old Maple Leaf Gardens there, and you get into the amenities, typical rooftop, barbecues, pool, and then for some reason the front hall closet. But yeah, the amenities in older buildings are substantial. And when you first started, I was just going to say squash court, and it beat me to it, it being my finger on the mouse. When we used to look at condos, not me, as I mentioned, this was from 1981, I was 1 year old, but when we used to see condos built, the idea was, let's take folks out of a house, give them things like big laundry rooms, and then give them all the amenities. They need a pool, they need a squash court, they need a tennis court. You would never see this in a new condo today. A squash court, a ridiculous sized gym. Look at how big this thing is. Now you might not like the ceiling, you might not like the paint colors, you might think it's too old. I don't even know what this is. Is this a running track? It literally looks like a velodrome in the Olympics. You've got a billiard table, you've got your party room, kitchen. I had 3 parties in party rooms while I was in condos for about 12 years. And then you've got a library in here. Is this a daycare? Library and kids play area. You've got an art room. As I said, guys, it's a community. So one of the things that you need to take home today after you watch this pick 5, of course, is the price per square foot. The second thing is the amount of amenities and the fact that these truly are communities. Listing history, of course, very important. And I did promise to get you a floor plan, which I'll look up. But if you see, they bought it for $680, completely unrenovated, renovated it, and now they're on the market for $848. They put money into this thing. That was 7 years ago. This is actually not a bad deal. Now, floor plan, bear with me here. This is what I meant. See, sunroom, solarium, behind the bedroom, and they kind of connect. Some people take this down and this down to extend the rooms, but hey, there's a lot of square footage, so it is what you make of it. So now let's move forward to 77 Carlton, which I mentioned. This is another one which I actually think is a pretty good price. This is $979. But if you want to scroll down with me here, folks, we're going to take a look at the listing history, and you can see $979, down from $999, down from $1,050, down from $1,001,000, down from $1,130,000, down from $1,165,000. They paid $761 for this in 2021 and renovated it. They were up at $1,165,000. They're now down at $979. Again, pretty good deal. Someone did the reno for you essentially for free. So $979,900, guys. This is 1,373 square feet. That's $713.69 a square. Now that sounds egregiously high compared to the first unit I showed you at $429 a square. But again, relative to the average in the city of Toronto, which is probably now $950 to $1,000 a square foot, and this is fully renovated, that's pretty cheap. So 1,373 square feet, again, as you can see, all brand new. The last one I said was renovated, but it was renovated compared to the 1981 finish. This is renovated basically in the last 2 years. Now this building, registered September 27th, 1983. I had just turned 3 years old and was probably starting daycare. Now, as you can see, this is virtually staged, but you have a big dining room, huge living room, even room for a desk. You're not going to find this kind of open concept space in a newer condo, and certainly not for under $1 million. So again, is what you make of it. With a large space like this, you can set this up however you want. If you want a 12-person sectional couch, great. If you're not big on TV, well, maybe take out the built-ins. If you're really big on dining, you can have a 14-person table, fit for a king. It's a lot of pot lights, a lot of muted colors. But the price here, guys, is amazing. And 77 Carlton is one of those buildings as well that's a community full of amenities. Residents, I was reading on, I ended up on like a Reddit or some sort of situation there. I think it was a real estate agent's blog, ironically not mine. And a comment from someone that lived in the building that said, keep in mind, 90% of our building is owner occupied. That's pretty rare. The fact that someone jumped on there to talk about it tells me that they're very proud of that. This is not a high renter building. I do have a client that rents out a unit here. They own a ton of units though. Very, very selective, of course. And I think their last tenant was there for 6 years. So again, people are here for a very long time. I mentioned the first unit that I showed you. That owner was the same owner since 2003. You see a lot of that in 77 Carlton. And while this one remains a reno and flip project, I do think the next person that buys this, there you can see the master bedroom with room for a couch and a desk and everything. You would expect to see that in a Forest Hill home, not in a downtown condo. But I think the next person that buys this is somebody that is looking for space. So again, the maintenance fees here, they're expensive. $1,374.36 a month. That's $1 a square. There's a lot of photos here, guys. Let's get to the front, right? It's kind of unsexy. It's an older building, right? You see this right here? Is curb appeal a thing for condos? I'm asking. It's not rhetorical. We talk about curb appeal for houses. Do you care what your condo looks like? Some people do. I've often mused on Toronto Realty blogs. Some people care about the name. What's the building called? It's called Pizzazz. That's pretty cool. What's your building called? 45 Carlton. Who cares? Pizzazz, you live at Pizzazz? Good for you. Picasso. I live at Picasso. I often muse that if I wasn't a real estate agent, I would want my job to be the guy that makes up names for condos. Zip. Someone came up with the name Zip, and then a developer bought it. Zip. Yes, that's great. Zed. No, seriously, the Zed Lofts. Let's call it the Zed Lofts. The Zed Lofts. Who cares what it's called, and who cares what it looks like? Some people do. Now, again, back to the photo here, guys, if you will. Does the outside of this building deter you? And let's go to the next photo here. Does this deter you as well? It is an old condo. It is 42 years old. It is not sexy. It's not glass and steel. It's not shaped like Marilyn Monroe. It's not called Picasso or Zed or Zip or Pizzazz, but it is exceptional value. So let's go to the next one here. And this one, oh boy, my old stomping grounds, 160 Frederick Street, unit 803. The math here, you're gonna eye rub a little bit, but let me walk you through this. $999,900 for 2,125 square feet. Guys, you ready for this? Price per square foot, $470.54. That is so cheap. Now, where are you gonna get 2,000 square feet for under $1 million? Probably 160 Frederick or the sister building on George. So down at 160 Frederick, and then there's 135 George, there's 25 George. These were all built at a time. And this one was registered February 5th, 1984. I was still in daycare, had not gone to JK yet. Having a tough time with your age, huh, David? But this was finished 41 years ago at a time when all of these buildings down there were home to 2,000 to 3,000 square foot condos. Now there's one, and I'm not sure if it's 160 Frederick or if it's the one across the street on George, but there are buildings down there in that little quadrant right off of Front Street, and there's about 4 buildings where every single one of the units in there is upwards of 3,000 square feet. At no point did the developer back then in 1984, when I was 4 years old, say, you know what we should do? We should build some 420 square foot micro condos. They'd never thought of it. The idea behind it was actually build condos that can act as homes. Now, of course, with the price to build what it is today, and all these conversations about how we really need to build more condos for families, we need to build bigger condos, that sounds great. Build a lot of 2,500 square foot condos, you're not selling them for $1.20 a square. They're gonna cost $3 million. But back then, this is what they did. So we'll take a look at the space here, and virtually staged, fine, but look at the size of this. One big open concept room, you can see there the solarium. The solarium was kind of like someone was like, we really need a balcony, but it would be great if the outside was inside. And then they made a solarium, which now people just tear the doors out to and extend the living space. But that was the idea behind the solarium. So you can see here enclosed kitchen, right? The idea here, nowadays every single place is open concept, but you wanted to have a kitchen like in a house. You wanted to have a dining room separate, and you've got big open concept. There's not a lot of furniture in here. This is an embarrassment of riches, the amount of square footage here. So here's your kitchen. Might not look sexy, but did I mention it's $470 a square foot? We'll get to the maintenance fees. There's your solarium. I know you love that tile. But this is what it was back in 1984, before David had probably played with his first G.I. Joe. I think I was into He-Man first, weren't we all? So master bedroom, you know it's a 1984 condo when you've got the bidet. It's very cute sometimes when I have young people. I walk in, they go, why are there 2 toilets and why does the second one not have a lid? I don't know, Becky, maybe you should sit on it and press that button. No, seriously though, people do not care for the bidet, the giant jacuzzi. People renovating now are taking all this out. Put in a massive, massive shower. People don't have use for that anymore. So there's your den. It's actually a den. Not David infamously playing racquetball in a den in a video from 2015. That was a fun one, by the way. So there you go, unrenovated bathroom. You've got a real laundry room, and there you've got an old, ugly building. Do you care? What's this building called? Does it have a name? No, it doesn't. Building name. It's called 160 Frederick. Do you care that it's not called Bad Bunny Lofts? I'm really playing into the age thing. I didn't know who that was till I saw Happy Gilmore 2. Now, the maintenance fees in here, guys, they're a little high at $2,799 per month. It's $1.32 a square. It includes everything, but that's a lot. But that is why you're paying $470 a square foot for this unit. So let's go to the, oh, no, there's one thing I want to show you. You ready for this? I have not seen something like this in a long time. Look at the listing history. They listed for $1,799 in 2022, $699, $1,500, $1,499, $1,399, $1,350, $1,349. You can read as good as I can. David, you're not going to read out all those, are you? Just start scrolling, man. There you go. Guys, I don't know that I've seen a property that's been listed 22 times. Unfortunately, this one has been. And we've seen this happen a lot with properties that were listed in 2022 at the market peak. It looks like you were always just a little bit too high as the price was coming down. This one has definitely been hard to sell. It shouldn't be. Phenomenal unit, phenomenal building. Yes, it has high fees. Sure, it's not fully renovated, but look at the price they're at. That is absolutely wild to me. So the last one here, guys, we're gonna go to 1983, May 12th. That is when 80 Front Street was registered. Now, fun fact about 80 Front Street, if you're a fan of the movie American Psycho, you're weird. But I'm a fan of the movie American Psycho. The scene with the dry cleaner, it's cran apple. The bloody sheets, cran apple. Is that cranberry juice? That was shot in the dry cleaner in the base of 80 Front Street, and now you know. So that's that building's claim to fame in my humble opinion. Also, I would say another community. Another building with long-time residents. I had a listing there once. We did a wine and cheese. Average age of the attendees was about 105, but people love living there. They are big units. It's an amenities building, and here you can see 80 Front Unit 824, $1,739,000 for 1,769 square feet. Now you're gonna ask, why is this $983 a square foot? You were showing us units that are $420. Guys, I'm gonna skip right to it. This has a 1,000 square foot terrace. Now this big mess of rocks here, I don't know what that is. I don't know if they were building something or if, I don't know, the building's literally falling apart. Hopefully not, but a 1,000 square foot terrace, I would ask, where are you going to get that? Well, I showed you last year my terrace at my old condo that I lived at from 2011 to 2017. So I love terraces, as you know. This literally looks like it's the building's terrace. It's not, it belongs to this particular unit. And then you have the common space there, as you can see as well, and more terrace space. This is a typical, right? Here you go, we're into the amenities. Rooftop gazebo, we're gonna see a pool, we're gonna see all of these fantastic amenities that realistically you're not getting in a new building. And I recognize I haven't shown you the unit itself yet, but this is what I want to teach you about today, is older buildings. And again, with the location. This is right across from St. Lawrence Market. This is where, and I mentioned there's a lot of buildings on Carlton built in the 80s, a lot of buildings that were built down on the waterfront in the 80s. You also had a lot down in the St. Lawrence Market, Front, George, Frederick, for example. Here you go, nice big library. A young person's gonna say, I don't read, I get my news from TikTok bots. Yes, that's fine. You're probably not buying a 1.739 unit at 80 Front Street. You've got your pool. You're gonna have old people doing aquafit. I think that's a thing. And there you go, mailboxes, treadmills. Of course there's a squash court and the floor plan. So humor me here. Let's go back to the very beginning so we can actually see the unit. Yeah, well, that definitely screams May 12th, 1983. Anytime you see this wood trim, you know this is 1980s. So yeah, it needs to be renovated, but it's two-story. It's pretty cool. It's great space. I think the price is a bit rich, I will say, but we're comparing to the first unit that was $426 a square. So it needs to be renovated, and you know, I mean, it's worth what someone's willing to pay, so far be it for me to say, you know, it's worth 1.5 or what have you, but this is the same owner since 1985. Tell me that people who have lived in there for 40 years don't absolutely freaking love it. That's what you get in older buildings in downtown Toronto. You get amenities, you get low price per square foot, you get an older demographic, but you get people that stay there for quite some time. So folks, this was more educational in nature. To be perfectly honest, I don't expect anyone watching this to look at any of those units and be like, yes, 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 call David, that's where we want to live. But we can't always feature one bed, one bath under 500 square feet in Pick 5. We can't always do new buildings on the east side. That might be my next one. Sometimes we need to take a look at ancient history, i.e. the time I was born, the early 1980s, and see, hey, where did condos start when this city started to build itself up? And it's a great sort of education in how we got to where we are with the micro condos. Because a lot of articles of the last couple of years about small condos no one wants, and why are people building these? And we know that obviously investors have driven the pre-construction market, and whether it's government not, legislating what developers build, or builders not finding a way to connect with people that want to buy larger units, we have a city of micro condos. But when you look at older buildings, you see these unbelievable spaces, often at unbelievable prices. Well, folks, that is it for me this week. Thank you for watching Pick 5. As always, we are back in the fall. We do an episode every Thursday on a different feature. If you have any ideas for features for Pick 5, please feel free to email me. I'll see if I can work that in. I hope you enjoyed this look at really, really, really old condos that are as old as I am. Feel free to subscribe if you'd like this to be emailed to you every week. Have a fantastic long weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.